everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome to the January Harlequin new releases, and I have a secret to help you have your best year ever. It's reading more romance books. Yes, romance books help you to be happier, not only in the romance relationship department, but overall in your everyday life. So romance readers actually have a higher emotional IQ, increased empathy, better communication skills, and most important of all, reading one happily ever after another turns you into an optimistic, ultra positive, glass half full kind of person, and who doesn't want to be around those type of people? So make sure to add read more romance books to your 2025 goals list. Hi everyone, I'm Lisa from Lisa Latte Books, and you are watching the Harlequin Books channel where we talk all about romance books. And today I have 7 to help you get started for the new year, and 7 is a lucky number. See, positive things are already happening this year. Aristophanes is about to get in his car to head out to his one-night stand when he stumbles upon Nell's unconscious body and takes her to the ER. So while there, they confirm that she has a concussion and cannot be left alone for the next 24 hours, so he decides to stay with Nell at her apartment. Now, while they're there, they each confess what they were about to go do that night, and then decide to salvage what's left of their night, and why not just have a one-night stand with each other. So this is my favorite all-time alpha male. He's not a super jerk or like just kind of dense or anything like that. He's actually a genius, and he's all about productivity and efficiency. And when she shows up at his doorstep 3 months later, he doesn't act like a total buffoon and ask her, why is she there? Or anything silly like that. He just walks up to her and is like, I know why you're here. You're pregnant, even though they haven't spoken for 3 months. I'm totally rooting for this romance to happen. So this is your book if you want a brilliant billionaire who doesn't play games. Next is Love Letters from Her Cowboy by Sasha, who's one of my all-time favorite romance authors. Her books are pure gold for like those heartfelt, deep characters, and this book is no exception. So this book is just that good if you're looking to have all the feels, because this was a really unique love story where we not only have a ruggedly handsome cowboy who loves dogs, but one that also writes amazing love letters. So after becoming a young widow, Emery moves in with her Aunt Ruthie to help her run the B&B left to her aunt by her late husband. So there, Emery meets Dougal, who senses that Emery is going through something and not quite ready to date. So he keeps leaving secret love letters in their mailbox. And they're not addressed to anyone, so they could be for Aunt Ruthie or they could be for Emery. So Aunt Ruthie starts making a list of like who the possible suspects could be. And, you know, they kind of just play along like maybe these are just for Aunt Ruthie because, well, it is her B&B. And Emery's not really ready to date, but Aunt Ruthie's keeping like a secret list for whenever she's ready. And in the meantime, Dougal keeps coming by the B&B to eat breakfast because Emery's actually the chef there, and he brings his dog to play with her dog, while also secretly keeping an eye for both of them because Ruthie's stepson is back in town and he doesn't have the best of intentions, and Dougal grew up there, so he kind of knows him and knows his history. So we have a cowboy, we have cute little dogs, we have a B&B, we have love letters. So what more could you want in a Texas romance? The next book is Colton's Canine Rescue by Colleen Thompson, where we have a sorta, kinda, but not really second chance romance. I guess we could call it a previous friends to lovers romance. So we have Malcolm, who's like a search and rescuer, but he's not on an official mission. He's trying to track down this killer who's after his family. So his uncle's already dead, and so is his mom. So he's super motivated to stop this killer before he hurts anybody else and bring him to justice. So he's tracking him with his rescue dog, and he's out in the middle of nowhere, like this mountainous terrain, and there's a big thunder and lightning storm. So he needs to go somewhere to find shelter and dry off. But more importantly, he can't let the dog get cold and wet because the dog is really cute. So I'm sure they're very rugged. But every time I read a book, whenever there's a dog or a cat in it, like my number one concern is the animal. Like, is he being fed? Is he getting treats? Are you giving him lots of hugs and kisses? That's my main concern. So anyways, Malcolm does a good job of taking care of his dog. And so they end up at his ex-fiance's cabin, which just happens to be there in the middle of the nowhere where the killer is possibly hiding out. So his ex-fiance's sister now lives there. That's why I said it's kind of sort of like a second chance, because they were friends before and he was in love with her sister. So there's this huge backstory where they were all there at that cabin, and Giselle, the sister, was drowning, and so was his Malcolm's fiance, like Giselle's sister. And so he ends up saving Giselle because she just happens to be closer to him when he goes into the water. And so because of that, Giselle is saved, but not her sister. So they both feel really like guilty, but not guilty. Like, it's really weird, but she's like, I'm going to totally help you track down this killer. And they end up falling in love while doing so. Next, we have the absolute best enemies to lover romance that I have ever seen. So Redeeming the Past by Linda Goodnight has two people who are absolutely not friends or even friendly in any way. So mostly it's Zoe, who's super mean to John. So John left his beloved foster mother's home when he turned 18 to, go out in the world and try to make something of himself. And it took him a while, so he didn't return until 15 years later. And unfortunately, his foster mother passed away after a couple months, like right before, and Zoe answers the door and tells him his foster mother is dead, and she's like, leave. She literally shoves him out the door and tells him to leave town. But John's understandably super sad and decides to stay in town for a couple days. Obviously, he wants to visit her grave, put some flowers there. And while he's in town, because he grew up there, people recognize him. And his foster mom's lawyer tracks him down and tells him he inherited half of the house with Zoe. So now we know that the reason Zoe tried to get rid of him is because she would have inherited 100% of the house if he couldn't be tracked down that very month. So Zoe's a single mom of two, and the foster mother actually took her in and let her live there for free the year before she died. So Zoe has no money and nowhere to go. So John, being like the good person he is, tells Zoe she can have the house since she obviously tried to trick him out of it so she could inherit it without him. So she calls him a freeloader and some other like really mean insults. So she's all into this enemies thing, which honestly made this book way more interesting. So if you're worried it's too much of a sappy kumbaya get together where they're not really enemies, this is definitely not that. So the joke is on Zoe because the will states that they both have to live together in the house for 3 months or they both forfeit the inheritance. So Zoe can't get it anyway, even though he tried to leave it to her. So John has a full-time job that requires him to travel like all over the world. So it would be a real hardship for him to actually just physically stay there in the house with her to help her fulfill the part of the will. But he's really worried about Zoe, and so he stays, but he wants to turn the house into a home for orphan boys, just like it was for him. But Zoe is like, I want the house all to myself because she plans to just sell it and use the money to live on at the end of the 3 months. So she goes behind John's back to the city council to get permits to get it turned down, citing the group home as like a town nuisance and that it'll bring down people's property values. So anyways, these fun shenanigans keep going on. So if you are worried that the enemy stuff kind of lightens up and they're just kind of faking it, it's not that case at all. So this was a truly authentic enemies to lovers romance, and I'm all for it. I really liked it. Next is Trouble with the Daring Governess by Annie Burrows. And if you are waiting for something new and fresh in your historical romance books, this is it. Rosalind's only like 18 years old, but she's been hired by Michael as a governess to Michael's younger teenage ward he just inherited. So like the ward is younger than Rosalind, and anyways, so the ward is in love with someone that the guardian, Michael, doesn't approve of, and so they're going to elope. So the only problem is that Rosalind switched bedrooms with the teenager, or rather, the younger teenagers, since they're both practically the same age. So the eloping groom climbs up the wrong balcony, surprises Rosalind, who then throws a book at him, knocking him into the bushes one floor below. Now, here's where it gets a little like totally Looney Tunes crazy, where you're like, I can't believe they did that. So Rosalind's only concern is retrieving the book because she got it from the library, and I guess she feels a really strong sense of responsibility for returning borrowed books. So she doesn't bother calling for help. She doesn't even try to help the guy that fell down, and she just packs up her bags and prepares to flee to her grandfather's house after, of course, retrieving the library book. And as she's running out the front door, she bumps into Michael, who is also has like a wacky like response because he just starts flirting with Rosalind, and they kind of just casually stroll the grounds like towards, I'm guessing, where the would-be groom fell. And this is like a super long back and forth romantic banter where he's laughing, he's joking, he's teasing her with like no concern at all for being in a hurry to check on the fallen groom. In fact, Rosalind asks him if he'll help her hide the body to cover up the accidental murderer. By the time the doctor like actually gets there, the groom has, woken up from being knocked out, I guess, from falling. He like takes off. And then the two of them, Rosalind and Michael, are like in cahoots for the rest of the book on how to keep like the younger teenager away from this groom that she's totally in love with. So this was actually a very funny historical romance with some twists that I honestly wasn't expecting. The next book is a forced close proximity. It's Beauty and the Brooding CEO by Juliette Hyland. And it's your classic, like, trapped in a snowstorm, hook up together. So Cora, who is an art restorer with a secret agenda, and Everett, who is a billionaire artist, and they're going to get together at his wonderful, huge billionaire mansion. And the thing that they have in common is both of their dads suddenly died before they were able to like make amends. So Everett was a graffiti artist, and after being arrested for tagging a building, his dad picked him up, and then on the way home, there was like this awful car accident and his dad died. Cora, her dad's like a famous artist, and she just didn't want to be in his shadow. So she like moves out, goes to college, even though he told her not to, and doesn't talk to him for years. And then he suddenly dies of a heart attack. So they're both trying to like do what they should, like what would make their fathers proud. So Cora is trying to track down this painting that she thinks Everett has secretly hidden in his family art gallery. So she she takes this job as an art restorer, which she is, but she's just there to snoop around. She's not actually like, she doesn't care about the art restoration or anything else. And really like this whole being stuck in a billionaire mansion made this so much better because, yeah, you could be stuck in a quaint little cabin and be cozy and cute, but I think we all know what's better, billionaire mansion or small cozy cabin. So this is the better snowed in version of a forced proximity romance. The last book is A Match for the Sheriff by Lisa Child, and there's an actual matchmaker in this book along with the sheriff, a firefighter, a nurse, and her 6-year-old son, and so many other good characters that make this the perfect family ranch that you never want to leave. So Sarah is living at the ranch with her 6-year-old kid while she takes care of the sheriff, of Sheriff Marsh's dad. So as a nurse and a single mom, this is the perfect setup for her. She can homeschool her son. She has free room and board along with a full-time salary. It's like the ultimate work from home if your home was free, came with a fully stocked kitchen, and had a job that you actually loved, and you were surrounded by like a hot, hunky sheriff guy all the time. So the job benefits actually don't just stop there because the matriarch grandmother of the family is also a matchmaker, and she's going to make sure that everyone gets paired up with their perfect soulmate, including Sheriff Marsh and Sarah. Now, there's an ongoing mystery in the background happening where everyone is wondering who started the ranch fire a few months ago. So between the matchmaking, the investigating, and the nursing, the sheriff and Sarah end up spending a lot of time basically matchmaking themselves together. So this is a good read for when you want to know everything everyone is thinking, because the point of view in this book actually gets equally shared by pretty much everyone in the story. So you get to hear everyone's thoughts, what they think of the other characters. In fact, there's even a ton of chapters written from the point of view of her 6-year-old son. So it's kind of like watching a movie. That's a wrap on some fantastic January new releases from Harlequin to help you kick off a great 2025, but there are many, many more, so make sure to check them all out at harlequin.com. All right, happy reading, and remember, if you like hearing about romance books, that's all we talk about on this channel, so make sure to hit the subscribe button below. We post new videos all the time.